Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion. You may know him as Downtown. He is Mr. Denny Brown. Denny, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you. And that's the junior heavyweight champion of the world.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well said.
That's important of the
Yes,
world.
yes. So
Well,
what's
thank you.
going
It's nice to
on?
be here.
So what's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm retired now, and I do like in the brief conversation you had earlier, I bought this house that I told you was built back in 1960. I bought just going on 3 years now, and retired in 2018. And I go, I've been working on the house ever since I moved in here, and fishing all the time, and I'm still pretty active. I go to the gym and work out and try to stay healthy.
Doing anything wrestling related?
Well, I do. Um, I just haven't done a whole lot of it. A little bit of signings here and there. Not anything really great. A lot of people looking, beating down my door, which is fine. I'm not. I don't really go promoting myself for it. I did get one that came up last week that I was set up to go to the Gathering 4 in Charlotte, North Carolina, in August 2023. Set up as a second VIP guest. It was just come out of the blue, and then the day after I got that, I got your text and wanting to do an interview. So I started going, wow, things are going to change. Maybe people will start to seek me out and want to start talking more about, the things that's going on in my life, and, my history with wrestling, and maybe what, got me to the point to where I actually got into wrestling, because it wasn't my intent to become a wrestler. I didn't grow up saying I'm going to become a professional wrestler. It wasn't the plan. My plan was to become a steel worker, iron worker, and, I was a welder.
So how did you go from that to becoming a wrestler? Like, how did you get in then?
Well, I come out of the Navy. I was in the Navy, 1973 to 1977. And, and technically, or basically, I really went into the Navy because, I wanted to get away from everybody else that was, that I was growing up within the neighborhood that would, they weren't having a good life, because most of them were getting in trouble and headed off to jail or prison or whatever. And I go, well, I ain't hanging out with these guys. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to end up in jail or prison. So I went to the recruiter's office and joined the Navy. And I got, and they, so I spent 4 years in the Navy as a hull technician, so we did basically ship's repair. I was a firefighter, carpenter worker, metal worker, steel worker, pipe fitter, just everything. Anything that you could do on a ship to repair. That's what I did. So that was when I got out of the Navy. I went to welding school. And that was I figured, well, if I had a trade, because that's what everybody's trying to get you to do today is, have a trade. And it was always something I could fall back onto anyway. And it helped me get into wrestling as well, because once I started wrestling, I went to Knoxville, Tennessee, because there wasn't really any jobs here in Florida. So I went to Knoxville because my uncle was up there, and he was with the operator engineers, and he said, well, you can come up here and I can get you a job with the union out of Knoxville. And you can go with the Boilermakers and get certified, for your welding school, and come up here and I'll get you a really good job. So I did. And when I went up, so I got up there and I had to go take another welding test, and so I passed and all that. And then the guy that we did the test with and everything tried to get me hooked up on the Boilermakers Union, and they were very clannish. Once they found out that I wasn't from Knoxville or from Tennessee, they said there is no way in hell that you're going to be with the Boilermakers. So I got to Knoxville, got all this welding experience and get certified and all this other stuff, and I had no job.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that's how wrestling came about. You needed to work. You needed to get a job.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange thing, you know. My uncle said he knew there was a guy that, you know, out of Knoxville, Rick Connors. I don't know if you ever heard of Rick Connors, who just, you know, that's all he did. He was, you know, he liked to go to the different colleges and the high schools, and he worked out with all the wrestling teams, University of Tennessee, Carson Newman College, every high school that he could get to during camps. Well, I didn't know him at the time, and but my uncle knew a guy that he had trained that was with the mill workers, and he said, "I'll talk to him, and maybe he might be able to help you out." Because my uncle loved wrestling; he was a, you know, big fan and wanted me. You know, he just couldn't wait, you know, something like that to happen. So he started pushing me towards it and everything. And I go, and I was not a big guy, you know, I was like, you know, just under 5'8", 165 pounds. And then I said, well, I said, this not probably a good move for me. I'm not big enough to be a wrestler. And he goes, just go out and try. So he got a hold of the guy, I got the name, and nobody knew how to get a hold of the guy, Rick Connors, who was training everybody. And he didn't know how to get a hold of him. But he says he hangs out at a restaurant at night called Shoney's. So yeah. So I call the Shoney's and I give the manager my name and number. And I said, this is crazy. This is ludicrous. And a couple of weeks later, I get a call. And it's from Rick Connors.
All because of Shoney's. Wow.
Yeah.
Good old Shoney's. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Shoney's, Frisch's Big Boy, I guess, is another name from him, probably from down here. And so, you know, I'm talking to him, and, you know, this is a guy that's, you know, won tough man contest. You know, he's just, you know, he's feared among a lot of the wrestlers because he was not only a wrestler, but he was a boxer. And, you know, a lot of people, and he was tough as he could be. And, man, and I didn't know him from Adam at that point in time. And so we're talking on the phone. So he starts sizing me up, and he goes, "Well, how tall are you?" And I go, "About 5'8". And he goes, "Well, we typically like you to be about 6 foot." And I go, "Well, can't help you there. I'm not going to grow anymore."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, how much do you weigh?" And I go, 165. He goes, "Dang." He goes, "Oh, we don't typically, you know, we want you to be about 200 pounds." I go, "Well, I can gain weight." But I never got to 200 pounds anyway, regardless. But I did start gaining weight because my aunt, she was a heck of a cook, and boy, I ate all the time, everything she cooked, and I ate. So he goes, "Well, you know, I have a thing that I'm going to do over at the Bubble over at University of Tennessee." And he says, "If you're interested, come on down, and I'll give you a tryout." I said, "Okay." So I show up at the Bubble, and I meet Rick. He's got another guy with him, a guy that he did some, you know, that he rolls with, as they call it, you know, getting on the mats, rolling and stuff like that. But he was a judo guy. So we get out there to the Bubble, and they got wrestling mats everywhere because that's where the University of Tennessee wrestling team trained. And so he put me through the typical normal exercises, the squats, the push-ups, the sit-ups, you know, everything, and I did all that. And then he says, "Well, I want you to get on the mat with this kid." And I don't remember his name because it's so long ago. So okay, so me and this kid, we started wrestling, shooting, you know, it was amateur style wrestling. And I was pretty scrappy anyway, you know, because of growing up, you know, I had to fight my whole dadgum life growing up, from my brothers to everybody in the neighborhood, and sometimes even my dad. So we rolled around and wrestled for a little while, you know, and the guy couldn't take me down, he couldn't beat me, and he couldn't hold me down, and you know, I went after him, and kind of pretty even. And then, you know, so Rick watches for a while, and he goes, "All right, my turn." Well, then I got my true taste of what wrestling was about, because boy, yeah, he put me through it pretty good. You know, rub my face into the mat and stuff like that, typical type stuff to try to discourage you from it and all that. You know, then he didn't do it. He didn't discourage me. Oh, because I figured, heck, as much as I've been through, if that's all you got, maybe you can beat me up, maybe you can out wrestle me, but I'm not done.
Right.
So he goes, we can go outside, and he looks at me and he goes, well, he says, you are a little small, but if you're interested, I'll be back here tomorrow. Tells me, I'll be here probably at 4 o'clock tomorrow. If you're interested, come on back tomorrow. I did. I showed up every day for 2 years. And I talk to him all the time, and he always says, he says, dang, he said, I did everything in the world I could do to run you off. I beat you up. He took me out to the football field. He'd rub my face into the grass. I'd have grass stains on my teeth. He'd bust my ears open. I'd be bleeding from my ears, and I came back every single day. And he said, dang, he said, I tried everything I could to run you off. And he said, I couldn't run you off. So I said, I figured I'd try to teach you something and maybe make a little money with it.
Why do you think he wanted to run you off though? It's just one of those things where they didn't want people in the business because of the kayfabe.
No, because I wasn't really what your typical wrestler.
Just because you were too small, you weren't his size.
Yeah. I mean, because I was 165 pounds, and so, but he kept me around, and we stayed there at University of Tennessee for a year, and I was working out with their wrestling team and him, and then I was training with this guy, Fred Jahard. He was Iranian. He was rated 4th in the nation. A wrestler, amateur wrestler, and he also taught there at the University of Tennessee. So we were there every single day, sometimes twice a day, rolling around on the mats, wrestling, shooting, and going. And I'd get some of the big guys, that were 3 times my size, and they'd squash me, and I'd pop back up, and they'd squash me again, and they'd get tired of squashing me and have to walk away. But I kept going, I kept working out. I kept doing push-ups. I was doing 200 or 300 push-ups a day, squats, everything, running miles and all that. And then I trained with Fred, the Iranian guy. And then when we get through wrestling on the mats, we'd go out to the track and we'd run sprints. And, I was in shape. He really got me in shape. And I got up to about 180 pounds. So, so I gained a little weight. And then the athletic director came in, a new one, Johnny Majors at the time came in, and he goes, he said, you guys can't stay here and work out with our guys because we don't want them getting hurt. So we had to leave, and we went over to Carson Newman College, which was a smaller college over in Morristown, Tennessee. And they had a 2-story building and a basement, or a dungeon as they called it, is where they trained their wrestling team. And they had no heavyweights. So they welcomed me and Rick Connors. They said, yeah, come on in. So I went another year with those guys. And then we started going to every camp that they had at all the high schools. I started wrestling all the high school kids and everything. And we did this for 2 years, 2.5 years, and no place to go. And then we get wind that Jim Crockett Promotions partnered up with Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan to open up the Knoxville territory, because it was Southeastern, owned by the Fullers, Robert Fuller and Ron Fuller and all that. Well, they pulled out and went down to Pensacola, Florida, so there was no longer a territory. So they opened it up as a small territory along with Jim Crockett Promotions. But I never really met Jim Crockett at the time because he really wasn't any part of it. And they really weren't using me except for TV every Saturday. And a lot of the guys that were there had wrestled, that were actually in the business wrestled, were never really with any territory, but they wrestled around a lot in the area. Didn't like getting beat on TV. And John Studd was there. A lot of the guys didn't like working with John Studd on TV because they were scared of it. And I had to wrestle with him and Kevin Sullivan every Saturday. And Kevin Sullivan was in shape because he was Mr. Tennessee at the time. And I was the only guy that could keep up with him. And he says, damn, he says, every time I work with you, he says, I get hurt. I'm so sorry, Kevin. I'm just, but I'm in really decent shape, and Stud didn't mind, because they like that, because it made him bigger than he actually was, which he was a big guy to begin with. But nobody wanted to work with him because they were afraid that he would hurt them, and they didn't want to hurt their what they thought they had as prestige, or their ring name or whatever it was. And I didn't care. I'd wrestle anybody, and I did. Or the Mongolian Stomper. I didn't wrestle him all the time on TV. And then they finally started putting me in the ring, and I never touched the ring until they came in there. We never had a ring to wrestle, and I didn't even start training to become a professional wrestler until after the territory opened up for them, and I got in the ring.
Man, that's kind of like really trying to make you earn it there. I mean, it's like, wow, they put you in the ringer.
I was taking backdrops on mats on the ground, the floor in the gymnasium. We'd fake like we would run into the ropes and stuff, hold your arm up, and to go like you got to go hitting the ropes. But there was no ring, there was no ropes, there was no ring, there was no nothing. It was just right there. And then we'd meet up at Chilhowie Park, which was a boxing ring up there, and we used to go over there, and we'd work out there. And Rick would say, "Well, all right," he said, "I'm gonna show you how we punch." And he'd make me stand there, and he'd just take his fist and he'd club me right across the jaw and the neck right here, and the meat. We'd take turns. He just wouldn't hit me; he'd let me hit him too, but you had to whack him. And we'd stand there and we would whack each other, and just learning how to throw punches the old school way, because that's how they hit you with a closed fist, but they hit you with the palm of the fist and not straight in.
What did you think of the territory, like as far as just that Knoxville area, and really basically, I guess you could say the scene? What was it like there?
That was fun. It was a blast, because it really became pretty successful, and I guess Crockett didn't like it. He kind of ended up shutting them down. And because they had a lot of nice talent in there. You had Les Thornton come through. You had Tony Atlas, Terry Taylor, of course Barry Windham. That's when he was first starting out as well. So we had Barry Windham there at the time. Tim Horner, because I helped train Tim Horner, which is I helped train him, but he grew up a little bit faster and went to a different territory after that. But we were having some pretty decent shows in some pretty decent towns, all around the Southeast up there, and they were doing pretty good. And I thought it was great. I was having a blast. And then all of a sudden, boom, Crockett got a little jealous and shut him down. He pulled out. And there we were standing around again, no place to go.
So what did you think of Ric Flair? I mean, obviously, maybe the biggest name ever in the business, but what did you think about him at that point?
I didn't even know him.
So you knew nothing about him?
I didn't know him. I didn't know him from Adam. Wow. Yeah, I had to get up there, and I had to wrestle in a tag team match one Saturday. Him and Ric Flair and Terry Taylor, and me and some other guy, and Rick walks up to me and he goes, "You know any spots?" And I'm looking at him and I'm going, "What the heck's a spot?" Yeah, I go, yeah, whatever, So we get out there, and it was pretty decent match, I got a little turned around, but geez, I kept up with him, because I didn't know I was doing spots, because I didn't know the terminology, as far as what we were doing when somebody would call a high spot. I knew it. I don't know. Whenever somebody would tell me what they wanted to do in the ring, I could see it. I saw the whole, what they call a high spot or a spot, as Flair said back then. I could see it in my head. I saw it in my mind. And if I didn't have to do a high spot, then I went back to the amateur style of wrestling and just use that. We do fireman carries, arm drags and stuff like that, to where and side, waist lift takedowns, and you could just, I did a lot of that stuff, and that's what I used as far as my repertoire, as far as how I address myself in the ring. And they liked it. And plus, I was, in such great shape, and I was so fast, it was unbelievable. People, like Kevin, he says, "Damn, it's hard to keep up with you." But he liked it because, him being Mr. Tennessee and he was in shape, he was, probably weighed about as much as I did, because he was a bodybuilder back in those days. But I didn't never let him know that he hurt me too.
Right, right. It's interesting though, like you had no idea like what spots were, what this was. I mean, even in the training, it seems like they're like keeping a kayfabe from you.
They didn't tell me anything. We didn't do spots. I was just amateur wrestling. I didn't know. I was just working out with with the wrestling teams and other people, and that's all we did. And the guy and Rick, mainly kept me around for more or less a sparring partner, somebody that he could roll with. I mean, I didn't care because when you're doing that, I mean, that's all it's doing is just making you tougher, making you stronger. And nobody ever made Rick Connors tap out. And we were we were over in Morristown, over at Carson Newman College, and we were shooting on the mats. And I got him in a headlock, and he was doing everything he could get out, and I'm squeezing I'm holding on to his head with everything I got, and all of a sudden, his skull just popped.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, you could hear it, because your skull, I think, is in 3 pieces of bone or whatever up there. And he tapped out. And he says, "Nobody's ever made me tap out before." Is that good or bad? But
right.
boy, he didn't let up after that. Oh, I paid for it.
So, did you think like, okay, this is like a legit shoot, so to speak? Like, did you think like, okay, this is like because they're not teaching you anything, not telling you anything, you don't know what spots are like? Are you thinking it's partially a legit shoot?
Well, with him and I, it was because that's what we were doing. We were, you shoot until, it's like we do round robins with Carson Newman College. It's a 2-point takedown, and then you get to the point where you get to a hole where you can't do anything and you tap out. I mean, they're not trying to hurt me, not trying to cripple me or anything such as that. It's just, we're rolling. It's who gets the best of who. And when you're out on the mats rolling like that, it's a great cardio workout. It just it builds strength like you wouldn't believe. I got extremely strong, and it just and I was able to use it because I was trying to get out once they left the territory. I was trying to get out and go to some of the other territories because Chattanooga had its own territory, and of course Atlanta did TV, which I was trying to get down there, and I would just drive down and just show up, and so they would use you because that's what they were doing TV. They wanted guys they could use on TV, so they'd have to put their guys over. But I showed up at Chattanooga, and they had a guy that didn't show up to wrestle, and they actually stuck me in the semi-main event for my first show ever been in.
Wow.
And Nick Goulas was the promoter, and it was with Bobby Ward and Hector Guerrero. It was my first time meeting Hector, and Crazy Luke Graham was my tag team partner, and they stuck me in to fill in for the guy that didn't show up. And we had one heck of a match. And Nick Goulas, that's the first time I ever met him. And, he had that old funny voice. He'd come in and he comes over to me after the match. He goes, "Oh, my boy, my boy." He says, I was one of his guys right from right from there on. He loved the match, and he was surprised that I came out and did the things that I did and worked the match that I did. And I just went out and didn't think about it, just did what came natural. And if you didn't know it, I'd take somebody down.
What did you think about Nick Goulas?
Well, I didn't know him all that well. I didn't, and then, you know, after that, that's really the only match that I ever. He never called me back, never called me up. I went down and did TV with him, and I got out there with Bobby. It was a tag match again. Bobby Eaton and Wayne Ferris, which was a honky tonk man. And I didn't know those guys either because I didn't, you know, I'm just brand new. This is my second match, you know, outside of the Knoxville territory, you know, out in another territory. Boy, they put me in there, and Wayne Ferris just stomped the tar out of me. I was black and blue all up and down my back, and my shoulders, everything. He, I said something to Bobby about it years later because after I got into the business, I was in for quite a few years. He goes, "That was Wayne. That wasn't me." Okay. He still stomped the tar out of me.
That's funny, like looking back, it's like that's Honky Tonk Man, beautiful Bobby Eaton, Ric Flair, but you didn't know them from Adam, like you said at the time. It just, you know, it's just funny to me, like wow, like you were just like brand spanking new, like fresh meat at that
Yes.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I finally got a shot to go down and do TV in Atlanta, and they put me in with the Mass Superstar, Bill Eadie, and you know, and I'm still, you know, pushing, you know, 175, 180 maybe at the most, and so and you can pull it up on YouTube. It's still there, the Mass Superstar against me, and Bill Eadie. And you know, I'm out there, and I'm all fired up and all that stuff. And he locks up with me, and I lock up with him, and he goes does a duck under go behind a waist lift takedown on me. I sat out on him.
Hmm.
I started spinning in circles, boom, boom, boom. And I pop up and I stand up and I square off at him. And he's got that mask on, and I see him grinning from ear to ear. He's just loving it. And but then you know, of course, he's their champion, and they're putting him over. So he was glad, and then he come over and just took over on me and just, you know, then did his thing and beat me. And then he came back, sought me out in the dressing room, come over and shook my hand and said, "Thank you." He said, "I beat somebody today."
Huh.
And that was my
Yeah.
second. Yeah, that was my second or third match that, you know, outside of what was going on in Knoxville.
So how'd you get booked there initially? Is that like something like Ole Anderson brings you in, or how'd you get booked there initially?
I drove down, showed up.
Wow. And you just said, "Hey, I'm Denny Brown. I can wrestle."
I got my bag in my hand. They said, "Don't wherever you go, said, just show up." When I went to Chattanooga, I had my bag in my hand and just showed up and walked into the dressing room. And you know, I said I'm told them who I was, been training with Rick Honor, and just tell me to go sit down. And if they needed me, they'd come over. If you got your bag and your boots, and you're ready to go. So that's
Wow,
what I did.
pretty like I don't know, ballsy of you in a certain aspect. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I can wrestle. I'm ready if you want me to wrestle.
Yeah. Uh, well, Rick had put, you know, I had a kind of his philosophy and, you know, his ideology and training with him. You know, I was in pretty good shape and I didn't think about it, you know, and I'm going, yeah, it's just, you know, if you're gonna get out here and go and you want to get into the business and you're heading this way and you got no other place to go and you need money, you do what you got to do.
So, how long did you stay in Georgia? And then I guess next up was probably Florida territory for Eddie Graham.
Well, yeah, because when they left, everything kind of shut down and all that. I didn't really live in Atlanta. I was still in Knoxville. I was just driving from Knoxville going down. And then I started doing a lot of the TV there and started hooking up with other guys that were in the Knoxville area doing Atlanta. And then, you know, that kind of dried up. And, you know, I was staying with an aunt and uncle and all that. And there was no work, no wrestling, no money. So I came home. I came back here. And I went down to Tim Horner was here in Tampa at the time, wrestling over at the Sportatorium. And I went over there and you know, went in, knocked on the, went in the office, and Charlie Lay, who was, the gatekeeper in the office, you couldn't get past him, unless somebody wanted you to, or unless he wanted you to. And I asked Tim Horner if he could, tell him who I was and all this stuff, and see if maybe I could start doing some TV there on Wednesdays. He gets JJ Dillon comes out, and he just closed the door on me and said, "No, we don't need you."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I went back to doing what I was doing. Some friends, that I knew how to do, which I had a skill, which I was a welder, and my friends here had a steel company, so I went to them, and we were, hanging steel, and I was just, so here I was in this area, is hanging steel, and all the jobs here, walking steel and welding and doing all the, what I needed to do, fabricating. So I became pretty good at that. And then I guess they had a change here in Tampa, and Dory Funk took over as the booker, and they were wrestling downtown here in St. Pete at the Bayfront Center. Well, I got to meet a lot of the guys, and Flair was there that night. I got to know him a little bit, and Les Thornton was there, and I traveled with him when I was in Knoxville a little bit too. So I decided to go down there and say hi. And I'm standing, by one of the doors where they, towards to the auditorium. And Les Thornton comes out, and I said, and I walked up to him and said, "Hey, Les, how you doing?" And he goes, "Oh," he remembered who I was and all that, and we were pretty, somewhat friends. And he goes, "Hey, how you doing? Are you working?" I go, "Yeah, I'm down here hanging steel down here at some job." And he goes, "No, are you working?" I said, "Yeah, I'm welding. I'm hanging steel." He goes, "No, are you in the business?" I said, "No, nobody will talk to me." And so I said, "No, I haven't done anything in a while," and all that. He goes, "Well," he says, "Come with me." Takes me into the dressing room, and then there's a table there, and over the dressing room, he goes, "Sit here on this table." He goes, "Just sit here, don't move." So I'm just sitting there, and all the guys are walking around, and Flair recognizes me, remembers me, and he walks up to me, and he goes, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And we're friends, shaking my hand and all that stuff. And then we had a little bit of the same conversation. So here's Les Thornton and Ric Flair, the world champion. And Les Thornton was at that time was the world junior heavyweight champion. And they said, they just told me to sit right there. Finally, Dory walks up to me and he goes, "Can you do TV Wednesday?" I said, "Are you kidding?" I said, "Yeah, I can do TV." So
Wow.
I go down and so that was the beginning of it here in Tampa.
Wow.
And
Dory Funk, just that easy. Hey, can you do TV?
yeah. So showed up to do TV, and I was my normal, natural self, and and it was good TV here because Eddie Graham was the promoter and all that, and Eddie was a solid guy. I, really liked him. Really, he was one of the main person to that really got me going in the right direction. But anyway, I do TV, and I get in there, and I had to work with Dory. I guess it was not Dory, it was Jimmy Garvin. And I get out there and I'm working with Jimmy Garvin, and I'm, doing my normal thing. I'm just, moving 99 miles an hour, headed way faster than everybody else. And he's throwing backdrops, and I'm going all from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring in backdrops, and I'm up and down. You never stay down. You always get up. And, a lot of the guys, and especially that would go over there to, they call them enhancement or whatever, but, you're working the TV to put over the guys that are working the territory. They call them jobbers, but I don't like that term because, it's just, to me, it's just insulting, because you're going to be putting people over, for most of your life while you're in that wrestling business, regardless of who you are, even if you're Ric Flair. So so I did TV, and then they're all excited about me being flying all over the place and up and down and this and that, and I could do just about anything. And I finally figured out what high spots were, so they could call high spots and all that stuff, and and then they never forgot. So I'm going all over the place and wrestling and doing this and that and everything else, and every Wednesday they got me coming down and doing TV, and so they and I'm still having to work because once a week Wednesday TV was not enough.
Right.
So I'm still working, still welding, but now I'm down here on doing condos, high rises, where I'm putting in stairs and columns and welding them all in place and everything. And I'm having to take off every Wednesday. And finally, my boss, and he gets mad and he goes, "You take off one more Wednesday," he says, "you're fired." Oh. I go, okay. So they call me up during the week and they go, Dory does, and he goes, "I need you." He says, "Can you come in and do TV this Wednesday?" I said, "No, I can't. My boss told me if I come in and miss another Wednesday, another day at work," he says, "I'm done. I can't." He goes, "Okay." 5 minutes later, Eddie Graham calls me back. He goes, "Hey, kid," he goes, "I need for you to do TV this week." And I'm going, I just talked to Dory, Eddie. I told him, I said, I'd love to be able to do TV, but I can't because I'm, the only job I have is this job here. I'm welding. I'm only doing this once a week, and I can't afford to lose my job. And he goes, "Oh, okay, kid, okay." 5 minutes later, Dory calls me back again. And I'm going, "Dory, I can't. You don't understand. I can't lose my job." He goes, "I understand, kid." And hangs up. But dadgummit, Eddie doesn't call me back again. And then he goes, "Kid, I need you to do TV Wednesday." And I go, "Eddie, I can't come. I'm going to lose my job." He goes, "I'll pay you double what I pay everybody else." I go, "Dang." It wasn't a lot, but still, I said, "Well, okay." I'll do it. So I went down there and I worked with Dory that day, and it was a heck of a match, for TV with me and Dory Funk Jr. And Dory loved me, and evidently Eddie Graham did too. So
did you lose your job?
Oh yeah, I got fired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just figured that.
Yeah. So, and I did some, went down to. I had to go down to the office one day, and I walk into the office, and there's Charlie Lay, the gatekeeper, sitting back there. Hard to get past Charlie Lay, and you go in. Charlie was an old time wrestler and all that, but you walk in the door, and and Charlie would lean back in his chair and put his hands behind his head, and he'd go, "Oh," breathe out, and he'd tell stories and wouldn't let you go inside. So I walk in. Damn if he didn't about jump out of his chair. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, "What in the world?" And he's excited. He goes, "Oh, kid, hey, kid, yeah, wait 1 minute, wait 1 minute." And I'm going, "Charlie, you okay?" He goes, "Wait a minute, wait a minute." He gets on the phone, and he says, "Hey, he's here. Go, "Okay." And so the door opens up to the locker room in there, and it's Eddie Graham. He came down from upstairs out of his office, and he comes in and he goes, "Hey, kid, how you doing?" He goes, "Everything okay?" And he's, "You doing all right?" I go, "No, not really." And so I got fired. And Eddie goes, "Oh shit!" And that was his famous thing. He did that. It was either good or bad, because when he did that, either you lost your job or you got hired. Well, at that time, the tag team, the kids they were using, they were young bloods. It was Brian Blair and Terry Allen, Magnum TA. And Terry blew his knee out. And he goes, and I didn't know it at the time. He goes, "Well," he says, I may have something for you, kid." So I said, "Okay, yeah, great." And I get a call from Dory later on. He goes, I need you to show up at these towns. He puts me in Terry Allen's spot.
Wow.
I'm working semi-main events with Brian Blair all over the dang territory. And I'm loving it. I'm in.
Big time.
Yeah, I'm in. And we're having the matches of our lives, you know, and I'm excited, you know. And we were doing TV. Me and Brian were tagging on TV, and we were working with the Hollywood Blondes, and we tore the dang house down on TV and all that stuff. And they're going crazy and they're loving it. And I'm all over the place now, and I'm working every night, and you know, 6-7 nights a week, and I'm just going, this is unbelievable. Well, it didn't last all that long. So it, you know, then because they had a change of the regime, whatever you want to call it. Well, anyway, Booker's changed. Dusty came in, and Dory went back to Charlotte, Mid-Atlantic. Well, Dusty pulls in, and he wants his crew and his guys, and he's got a big meeting, you know, and that we all are in the where the ring is, sitting in the bleachers. He says, you know, I'm gonna pull you all in one at a time, have a conversation with you, and let you know where you stand. So he goes through everybody there except for, you know, and I'm waiting for my turn. I'm going, dang, you know, this is not looking good because everybody's going. And then there's 3 of us left. And I'm looking to the other 2, and I'm going, this ain't good. So he calls us into the office, and he goes, well, you guys are the last one I need to talk to, but you know, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm gonna let y'all go. I said, what? And I gotta let y'all go. I said, I've been working every night. He goes, yeah, I know. He goes, right now I don't have a spot for you. I don't need you. You know, he said, but you can come back and do TV every week. Oh, there we go again. So I do, I didn't have nothing. I lost the other job, so I went back to my friends, their steel company, and I'm doing TV again every week. But at least I got a job, I'm welding, working steel, and all that stuff every week. Doing okay. And and then I'm starting to work with a lot more of the guys coming in and out and all that. And every Wednesday, everybody's walking in, they're looking at the sheet, see who they're working with. Everybody wanted to see who was working with the kid. They're talking about me, because that's who everybody knew that they were working with. If they were working with me on the TV matches, they knew that they were going to get over, have a good match. And instead of going out there and just pounding, doing a slam job on somebody that, just comes in here every week to collect the $50 check and go home and, have his, 15 seconds of fame, or however they say it.
Right.
So I'm doing TV, and I'm still in shape, and I'm still flying back all over the place and all, and I'm working with everybody, and things are starting to seem like they're picking up again. And I'm down there, we're doing TV. Mike Rotunda comes in again, at that time. Mulligan comes in at that time. Barry's in at that time. And, and I'm starting to hook up with these guys. And Rotunda likes me because he loved to fish. And I knew all the fishing around here. And, my brother lived in Fort Lauderdale. I lived up here in St. Pete. We were at the beaches and all that. So I have a match on TV one day. And I come out. And, Dusty stood next to this desk all the time, watched monitor all the matches. He goes, hey, kid. I walk over and go, yeah, what's up? He goes, what do you want to do? I go, what do you mean? He goes, what is it that you want to do? I said, well, my goal is to be in this business and working full time. He goes, okay, kid. I got a spot for you. So he brings me in, and I'm starting to, do more shows. And, I'm now no longer just doing TV. I'm doing shows all over. And so, but I'm still getting, still getting beat on TV and working, and and then I'm starting to travel with Mike Rotunda, Mike Davis, Barry Windham. They pull me in and they sit me in the back seat, do the car, tell me don't talk, shut up, just listen. I said, okay, don't talk. I wasn't allowed to talk, I wasn't allowed to do anything except for just ride along, drink beer. So then we started doing, some more on TV and everything. And, Mike comes over, he goes, I says, after your match, I want you, at the end of your match, he says, I want you to come out here and sit out here at the, where you can see the ring and watch every single match. He says, and you don't move. If you move, you're done. So, okay. So I started watching, I started learning, and they started talking to me. Mike Davis was with us at the time, God rest his soul. What a great guy Mike Davis was. What a heck of a talent. So I'm with these two guys, every night, and they're in my ear. And then Eddie Graham's coming down, and he's coming down before I go to the ring. He's in my ear. He's telling me, this is what I want to hear. I'm getting beat on TV still, but he goes, this is what I want to see you do. He's telling me how to work my matches on TV, even though I'm getting beat. And then, so I'm just, I'm in with everybody right now. And then Hector Guerrero comes in, and I knew Hector from Chattanooga that time, and never, it's been a couple of years since I've seen him, but he comes in. And Eddie goes to, they put me and Hector together, and Eddie goes to Hector and he goes, I like that kid. He's got something. He says, I want you to work with him. And went from there.
And obviously Dusty likes you because you end up in JCP, the Mid-Atlantic, Charlotte territory. And really, I think what a lot of people remember is Starrcade 84. You and Mike Davis. So I feel like Dusty, he definitely liked you. Then you become, of course, the World Junior Heavyweight Champion at the Greensboro Coliseum.
Yeah. I knew it a couple of years earlier. We was in Orlando, and we had we were selling out everywhere. We was at the Eddie Graham Sports Arena in Orlando. And I'm watching the matches, like I usually do. And Dusty walks up behind me, hits me with that belly, and he goes, hey, kid. I go, yeah. He goes, we just had a tournament for the Junior Heavyweight Championship of the world. I go, hey, that's great. That's nice. He goes, you won. Oh, I did. We're still in Florida. I didn't know this is how far ahead he is. He's already got me in places where, that I'm not even thinking about because I'm in Florida.
Right.
But
yeah.
he's so far ahead that he's already got me world champion. But his plans, his booking and everything was just so phenomenal. It's just such a great mind that he's a year out. And, and he had the place to do it was at Starrcade. And, and I didn't even know we were leaving because we did that big show down in Miami. And that's where him and Eddie Graham Dusty and Eddie had fallen out. And then we're over at the Sun Dome here in University of Florida, South Florida. And I didn't know that they had that fallen out. I'm just, walking around the dressing room, just, doing my normal thing. And Kevin, I guess, assumed the book from Dusty, and I didn't know that either. And he walks up to me and he goes, can you make a town, this town? I thought it was kind of strange that he asked me. I look at him, I went to say yes, and Dusty walks over and goes, no, he's not. He'll be in North Carolina. I guess I looked at him, I went, I don't guess I'm going to be able to make it, Kevin.
He was taking you with him because he was leaving. Yeah.
He sent me way before everybody else came. I was one of the first guys to go. And here I am in North Carolina, But I got to know a lot of the guys. I knew Ron Bass and Black Bart because they were down here and they loved me. Got to work with Tonga, Haku, whatever you want to call him.
Yep.
And I was doing TV with him here. and I'm out there working with him and all that, and he gets me in an arm bar, and I'm switching in and out, and and he grabs it, goes back, we're switching, and I look up at him, and I don't know the guy, and I hear he's one of the toughest guys on the planet, and I look up at him in the eyes, I go, I'm taking you down in a fireman carry. Is that okay? Before he had to say anything, he was on his back. And I go, oh, Lord. And I'm looking at him to make sure he's okay. He just grinned. Yeah. And so and Ricky Steamboat, he grew up here in this neighborhood, too. I went to school with him. So, I knew him, and he was already there. It was funny. So it was the first time we get to meet, down there at the Croc's place where they're doing promos and all that stuff. And I walk in and sit down, and he comes up and goes, Denny. Him and my brother were really close. Him and his brother Arthur and Ricky, and my brother were real close. They all hung out together, fished together. We all kind of did at times, but my brother more so. But he knew me and come up. And he hugged me, shook my hand. He goes, "Yeah, glad to have you here, brother." And it went from there.
Very cool. And you had a pretty good run for Crockett. I mean, basically 84, 85, 86, 87. I mean, you were there for quite a bit. I mean, you had a good run.
Yeah, 88. And yeah, things changed, I guess. The format and everything was changing, and it was yeah, we did have a really good run, and things really got wild, and it got really too wild for me, partying and stuff like that. Things were changing, and I wasn't working a lot, and I got caught up in a lot of that scene with some of those guys, some of the guys I hooked up with, because they weren't monitoring us, and it was, it wasn't too good. So the people were leaving. Dusty, well, after we first got to Charlotte, he lost Barry and Mike anyway, and we were at the Coliseum over in Charlotte, and Dusty went over to the bar across the street, and I went over there with him. And boy, he was about in tears. I ain't kidding you. He's crying to me about, man. He said, this whole thing was based on Barry and Mike coming in there, because that's, that was his top baby faces that were going to be there. And I was hurt too, because there's my buddies. They're taking off on me too. And, I'm going, I know how you feel. But Dusty's more so, because that's what he was going to build the territory around, those two guys. And it was, it was a pretty sad night, me and him sitting there drinking beer, and it just really changed him a lot. But later on, that was early when we first got there, but later on, then other people started coming in, and then, so I got into some of the guys that just partied a little bit too much, and it was just too much for me. So about 1988, everybody was leaving the territory. They were going to Memphis or here or there or whatever. And they shifted to, all the big guys. That's when Lex Luger started coming in. So you had all these big muscle guys and all that stuff. And there was not really any place for me. Everybody was getting contracts, and I wasn't getting a contract, and I wasn't having any place to go. But I should have saw it. I should have left, should have went to Memphis. But I said, you know what? I'm not happy with the way things are going. I'm not happy with the partying, and I just, I've seen a lot of people dying and stuff, and I said, oh, I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to be one of those. I don't want to be a statistic. So I just kind of pulled myself out of it, and I went to Arizona, where my dad was, and hung out with him for a while.
So you weren't really wrestling as much sporadically. I know you ended up in WCW just a little bit here and there. So you're kind of like winding it down and ending the career.
Yeah, pretty much. I was trying to get back into it as well. I thought maybe I could and all that, but I had not really been in the gym and working out as much, and I just started gaining weight, and then, and I wasn't looking, like I was back in those days. I was 190 pounds when I was at top weight. But, I carried it really well, and I looked good, and and I looked believable as a wrestler, because of, my structure and the frame, even though I wasn't really tall. I remember when Joe Scarpa come over to me in Chilhowie Park in Chattanooga, slid over next to me, and he goes, "Hey, kid, this is when I'm first starting out." He goes, "What are you doing here?" And I didn't really know him. That's the first time I ever met him. Chief Jay Strongbow later on, or where he was then. And I go, I'm working. He goes, no. He goes, what are you doing here? I said, I'm working. He says, no, you're not. Get out. You're too small. Wow. You don't think that didn't change my mind? It sat right then and there that I didn't have something to prove.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's like the third person who told me that, I had no business. But I just said that, the guy that trained me really instilled a lot of, knowledge and, structure into me that taught me that, I was more of a technician than, than I was, just a regular worker. I could incorporate both the mat skills and work it as a worker into the professional skills too at the same time. And it works well. It really worked. It meshed really well together because I could incorporate it and do the same, with both of it. And it got over.
Definitely. A lot of people remember downtown Denny Brown as being a great worker, obviously multiple-time NWA junior heavyweight champion of the world. But everybody remembers you being a really skilled technician, a great worker.
Yeah, timing was perfect. I mean, I just, but I could in the middle of the ring, I couldn't talk. I I hated to be put on camera and the light go on. As soon as a little red light go on, I'd look at it and go, oh. So I stood there one day. I don't know who's going to see all this stuff. And, I saw that light come on one time in Rock Hill, and I looked up at it and I went, oh. And just the word came out. Drop the F-bomb on them, right there.
Oh, not good.
Yeah, so but so I never really sat around and stuff, and then I started, trying to work on a few things with it and all that. But it just, I just love the skill and the art of wrestling, and I just really enjoyed that. I didn't really care about, because everybody, the art, I guess of doing promos and stuff like that is just telling stories and and lying about whatever, because that's what it was. It's made up, I don't know how to lie. I'm not a good liar. It makes me feel horrible. So I don't know how to make things up. And, if I wanted to, so I have to come out and tell you, what I believe and what I feel, and it's going to be the truth. And 9 times out of 10, the stories I tell you that have happened are true or funnier than somebody making up a story and telling a lie.
Yep.
Because it's so amazing and so funny and it's unbelievable. And I've done so much, Australia, Japan, used to go down to Puerto Rico, and Dory was the booker down in Puerto Rico, and the Bushwhackers are there, and all that. And Dory was infamous for, doing his, 13-page finishes and stuff like that. And so I'm down there as the champion and all that, and I'm having a championship match, and he comes out with this 13-page, finish. And the Bushwhackers are sitting there listening to him and all that, and I'm just shaking my head, yeah. And the Bushwhackers go, "Did you get all that?" And Dory looks at him and goes, "He's the damn champion. You're damn right he got
it." Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was, and I did. It was a good match. I worked with a kid I never met before, one of the Riveras, just a really good match. Really fun time down in Puerto Rico. Good time in Japan too. Australia was okay. I guess the guy didn't like me too much because we didn't wrestle. All we did was it was just like it was more of a boxing match to me than anything else. Was all he wanted to do was punch me in the face. I'd punch him back. So that's pretty much what those matches were like, and but it was an experience, I mean, not what are you going to do? You don't get to do all these things, maybe once in your life, if if at all. But it was a great experience, and I always go back to my childhood, thinking that all the stuff that happened to me in my childhood really led up to this, built up to the fact that, you know, that I could get out there and do the things that I did, and take literally the punishment that I did because of the punishment I took as a child growing up by my brothers. You know, I was 5 years old, you know, got a chin-up bar in the doorway, having to do chin-ups, squats, push-ups, and everything. You know, we had PT every morning, every night, got out in the backyard, got a whooping every night from my dad. We got into an argument with my brother. I had to push the furniture up against the wall, get on our knees, stand face to face. He'd stand over us with the belt. First one stopped, first one cried, we'd get whooped. You know, those growing up. And then when he left and you know, went back off to wherever the heck he went as a Marine, then I had two brothers, and you know, they loved to beat me up. They'd take turns and beat me up all day long. So by the time I got into wrestling, and you know, I figured, if, you know, the guy that trained me, Rick Connors, I said, "What the heck? All the stuff that you're doing, you might be beating me, but you're not beating me up, because if that's all you got, you know, I'll tap out all day long, but I don't never quit." And that's what happened, and that's what led me into what became a part of, you know, I could do anything out there, and you know, and these guys were, you know, I was not the biggest guy out there, and I was pretty small, and I worked with all the biggest guys there were. And all those big guys that really enjoyed working with me, who liked me, really gave me a lot of the matches that, you know, normally they wouldn't give to any other guy. I mean, I get 300-pound guys like Black Bart, and, you know, in the heat of a match, you know, and me making a comeback, pick me up, slam. I'm looking at myself, you're 300 pounds. Before I know it, I got him up in the air. Bam! He's down on the mat, slammed him. Mark Lewin comes in, the Purple Haze. And I'm working with a match with him out there, and he's loving the match. He's going, and he does the same thing. I make a comeback, fire up, boom, bang, slam, pick me up, bam. Now I'm going, they're putting me over. I'm not winning, but as a fighter, and Mike Rotundo instilled this into me. He says, don't ever stop fighting, and get back up, fight back every time. Even it's work, you know that. You know. Yep. But he says, but it's the image and picture and what you're giving, you know, what you're portraying. You want to be a competitor, you know, a fighter. And if you can't fight, you're not going to go out there and fight back. And you go out there and just lay down like 90% or 95% of the guys that come down and do TV every week. That's all you're going to do every week. It's TV, nothing else.
Yep. So as we hit the wind down here, we head towards the finish. What's next for you? I know you mentioned the gathering, but what else is next for you as far as wrestling is concerned?
Well, I don't really have anything. I don't have an agenda, because I don't really promote myself to anything, you know. Everybody's doing a lot of different things and signings and stuff like that. I'm happy. I got a nice home. I'm you know, like I said earlier, you know, I bought this home, you know, 2.5 years ago, and I've been remodeling the whole house, working outside, and I'm going to the gym. I'm still in pretty good shape. And you know, and I can't go back and wrestle now, because I've had to have surgeries, because they have caught up to me, and I had 2 this year, and they're not going to let me back in the ring anymore. But as far as going to do, you know, signings and stuff like that, people just, you know, I don't know, I don't know what it is, or what, you know, they just don't seem to flock to me. So I don't really have anything that I've, you know, that I have on the table, except for this thing. Like I said, you know, then you text me, and the thing that I'm doing, the gathering. But anything else in itself, I really don't have anything, and I'm okay with that. You know.
Do you have social media though? Do you have something to throw out there and promote, so people maybe can reach out and connect?
No. Not really. It's Facebook is all it is, you know, and I get all these friend requests all the time, but I don't do it, you know, because because a lot of them, when your friend requests them, they want to go to Messenger and they want to talk to you all night long. Then they want to mail you pictures, and they want you to sign them. And you know, if I start doing all that, and then what happens is then I'm giving it away for nothing. Then who? You know, they're not gonna come to these signings and stuff, but it's gonna come to the point where it's gonna catch up, because when the guy announced me on the at the gathering, when he announced me, I was really kind of shocked of the feedback and the comments that I got, that stating how a rare opportunity, a rare find that they're going to be bringing me to Charlotte. So it was positive for me
For
that
sure.
I saw that, because I didn't realize it was out there. And I've been to a couple of signings, and and I guess that it's not it. It's, they don't want to pay me. That's for some reason, and maybe I'm not the business guy that I probably should be. I'd rather go out and catch redfish all day long than somebody fly me up there, not pay me anything.
Right, right.
I got, the gym's a mile away. I had back surgery back in May. I had physical therapy today to stretch me out. I got back home. I walked to the gym. It's a mile. I did legs, walked back home another mile. Rehabbing, just getting myself back in shape. Trying to. I'm 66 years old now. Manny Fernandez texted me the other day, and he goes, hey, they want me to have my last match over in Orlando in January. He goes, you want to work with me? I'm going, hell no. I can't work with you.
Crazy.
But he wanted me to work with him because he also was another guy that took me under his wing and stuff like that. And, took care of me and stuff like that, and love. He always calls me the toughest little shit he ever knew.
Nice nickname.
Yeah, that's his favorite saying. But it was. I get I mean if I go to some of these other things where they have these legends luncheons over here in Tampa,
Oh yeah,
and I go
yeah.
there.
Yep.
I go to those once in a while, but this year I haven't gone so much because they had. I had 3 discs slipping out of my neck, so I had to have those replaced. And I didn't have 4 discs in my lower back, were almost completely gone, and the bones are slipping out of whack and stuff like that. So I had neck surgery in January to have that fixed, and then I did the lower back in May, like I said. And I'm just glad that I'm not in a that I'm not crippled in a wheelchair, and I'm healing up pretty well, and I'm getting active again, and working out and getting some good workouts in and getting strong again. So I'm that's really kind of the first thing that I want to do, and maybe this thing in Charlotte will put me back out there. People will see me again, and maybe they'll get some more requests to have me come in and do some of the signings and things that a lot of the guys are doing these days. But a lot of it, what you see is the WWE guys, and the ones from the Attitude Era days with all those guys. That when Vince took over and put everybody out of business, I mean that was the only thing everybody's seen. So what today is a new age of far getting to the public is. Let's get you and sell some pictures and do some autographs and talk to you and do interviews. Who knows? I don't know where this goes. Maybe this goes out to somewhere. Somebody sees it and says, and doesn't know all the stuff of my story, that maybe this puts that story out there that somebody sees that says, well, maybe we ought to start bringing him out more.
Right. Sounds
I
good.
don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Never know.
And I've had a lot of opportunities to do these, but I've never done with anybody because they're never. Nobody ever follows up. And, and I thought, if they don't call me or, follow up, that's why I said to you, I said, well, at least call me, let me know, because that way I know you're for sure. And I did forget today was Thursday.
It happens.
So,
yeah, that happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really just every day is the same. The only thing, I go and look at the time schedules and all that is what time is when the tides are, and, how the wind's blowing and where's the moon.
Yep.
I won't go fishing. And as a matter of fact, I'm going Sunday. I'm going up to Brooksville, and I'm going fishing with Mike Rotundo. He's got his boat up there. He's finally got it in the spot. And he and we're still fishing. We've been fishing together for 40 years. And I'm going again Sunday, and I'll stay up there. He married Stephanie Wyndham, so they're like family to me. And So I'm going up there, stay with him for a couple of days. We'll go out Crystal River, go fishing up there, and he'll tell me about all the signings he's doing, and I'll just sit there and go, yeah, it's nice. Why don't you throw my name around once in a while?
Yeah, there you go.
He does. He's a good guy. He really is. He's one of the best guys that that I've known in the business, and we've been close friends for a lot of years. And he helped me get through a lot of to work my way through it, and helped me understand the psychology of the business and how wrestling, and really what helped me get over as a wrestler, as a smaller guy at that.
Well, Denny, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate taking a trip down memory lane, if you will. But thank you so much for all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was glad to do it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay awake this long.
Thank God you did. But yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to give a little bit of the story. So it was nice.